Welcome to Horror Movies and Beyond. Today, I'm joined by the director and star of this wild, shocking, howling good time film, Radio Silence presents Full Moon Glory Hole. Let's welcome Thom Newel and Courtney Bandeko.
Yeah.
That's right, it's the title.
Yeah.
The title is
Yeah.
just is. I mean, I've seen some movies about glory holes, but it's never in the title.
Right.
So this is going to be fun. So thank you so much for joining me, Chad. One of the members from Radio Silence, he sent me this email. He said, "Look, you have to check this out." And he know me very well, and I watched it, and I was just laughing. I was just enjoying it, and there were so many things about it that caught my attention. Even though it's very, very short, it got to the point, but at the same time, there's a lot going on, a little details that kind of led up to what was going to happen. First, I want to tell people what this is about. When Francis is beckoned to a glory hole in a dark gas station, he gets more than what he bargains for. So my question is, Thom, where did this idea come from? Because I believe it originated from a comic book, right? And it
It did.
yeah.
Yeah. So I had written a script. Courtney, I often just call her my leading lady. So I write a lot of roles for her, and she's in most of my shorts, but we've written things that we haven't made yet. And so a werewolf project had always been on the back burner in different versions. And during COVID lockdown, a friend of mine is a comic creator. His name is Renton Hawkey. And he reached out, and it was lockdown, and a contest had opened for submissions for a horror anthology comic. And he said, "I'm not into horror, but we're very good friends." And he's like, "I'd love to work with you on something. Do you have like a script that we could repurpose?" And so I had this script, and I gave it to him. I rewrote it as a comic script. He then created the comic. We were rejected from the anthology, but he's a creator with his own output on Substack. So he put it up there, and it became one of his most popular posts ever. And so when I was looking at doing my next short, as I knew that lockdowns are going to be lifted, in a few months, and I wanted to do a werewolf thing, it was just I sent my script to my wife, who's also my producing partner, who Courtney knows. And I had a few there, and she just looked at this one and was like, "Well, this is the one that you have to do. It has to be this one." And the actual origin of it really did just come down from, I write a lot of like little short scripts, and it was, what have I never seen a werewolf do? And the answer was pretty immediate in my brain, that, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't figured it out from the title, but I've never seen a werewolf give a blowjob. So there you go. That's it.
Well, according to this movie, you really don't want that to happen.
Right. Yeah.
What I really did love about your character was the subtle expressions that said a lot. Like, even when Francis, there's the drunk guy who was driving, even when he walked in, you were just like minding your business, but there was something you did that caught my attention, where the way he was talking to you, you had this expression like, "Oh, here we go again." But it was very subtle. Like, you knew what was going to happen, but you didn't want to do it, but he's becoming a jerk, and let's see how far this goes. That is kind of what I was getting. Did you notice that you were doing very subtle things as your character? Because I know you have much experience in acting, but there wasn't a lot of dialogue. But I love how you did that.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, that honestly came from a lot of conversations between Thom and I, because we shot it a bunch of different ways, and we were like, really, what's going on with her? There were ways that we shot it. It was just like, is she being coy? Is she more aggressive? Is she, ultimately there was the one he went with, which, why'd you choose that one, Thom? But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yes, because I think you touched on something that is one of my favorite things about this short and the way Thom does his shorts. It's called a short film, so I think they should be short. We're expecting them to be short. That's all it for, was something short. And then, so with that, you have to be very economic with the storytelling. And so your expressions do have to tell a lot. Even though there's no dialogue, you do kind of have to embody all of, what's going on with the character, what she's up to, what she's, what she's wearing on her sleeve, what she's hiding, all that. So,
but there are some things that you could tell that she is not a beast the way it ends. Like, she has a heart, and that is Colin that's outside sitting, and she gives him, I believe, a turkey sandwich or something. But then she says something else, and I couldn't make it out. But I feel like how the movie progressed, he was important, because no random person would just be sitting there. It's like, but even that lets me know that she was a kind person. She's kind. She's not this beast, this werewolf or whatever. But then, but the little subtle details, you filing your fingernails, you're sitting back and you're watching him. And I love how you look. Like, it's almost emo, but not. Like, like, as soon as I saw you, I was like, something's not right about her, but I don't know. But then it was the keys behind you. I knew, I was like, those keys are from something happened. There's too many behind her. They're too different. The subtle details, Thom, that you were putting in, and Courtney, that you knew about these subtle details that you wanted to express, like, what is about to happen. And that question's for either one of you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start it, but we should definitely get to Courtney on this, because she added a bunch. But the keys were there from the get-go, or at least the idea is in the background of the comic. I think she grabs his cigarette and smokes it in the comic instead. But the idea was that it's a short film, but we wanted it to emulate an idea that was larger than our short. And Courtney and I spent a lot of time together before we shot, and I was rewriting the script with our notes together, with adding the background of our character. And as we would figure out who she was, we realized sort of how robust this gas station was. She's, it's not in the short, but like, she owns the gas station. The character of Nicole is, we landed on, she's 75 years old. Like, she's aging differently because of her werewolf status. She has to eat, but she has control of her transformations, as we see in our short. And so she picks her prey, and she finds people that maybe society could do without to eat. And so the catch of the day was a very economical, as Courtney already talked about, an economical choice to basically give us all of these implications without saying it out loud, without having some weird dialogue drop. The feature version that we're developing, those keys aren't even there. But the idea that they represent her setting up these traps is there. So it's like, that's a short film real estate, almost a compromise, really, and not in some negative fashion, just like, how do we get this larger story in here? And then Colin, actually, out front, was not in the original script. And that was an idea that came from Courtney, talking about the background of the character, what she's doing, and adding a little depth to her. And I think for both of us, we didn't want her to come across as, she's a monster, she's a werewolf, but we didn't want Nicole to come across as spiteful or as unlikable or unlovable. And so it also, I think, helped to clarify the idea that the Francis, who is our victim, is victimized because of his behavior, and as a morality tale. She doesn't just eat anybody. Like, he effectively deserves it. I mean, it's quite a punishment, but still, it's deserved. And Courtney can certainly go into some of that.
On to you, Courtney.
Oh yeah, I thought so. I'm very excited on that you picked up everything we were putting down. So that, because that's what you hope, is when you put something on screen or on paper that that it comes across, that what you're trying to communicating is communicated, whether people like it or dislike it, that's a whole other conversation, but at least it's coming across. So that's really exciting to me to hear. And then it's funny, like, Colin, it's funny because I forgot that Colin didn't exist before our conversation. So that's funny. But I just think it was very important to me, just in general, when I'm watching movies, when I'm reading them, when I'm making them, or, creating characters, just like what's going on with them. And particularly if they're the main character or the heroine, or the main protagonist, it's really important that we know what they're doing here. And then that we like them, that we give them that. What she does is ultimately horrific, but we give it to her and we see why. And then, it's a extra bonus points if we really want the other character. We really want that to happen to Francis. We need to see him, like it's sort of an anti-save the cat moment. Like she gets her moment where, we really see what she's doing here at the gas station, what she believes in. And then we see the opposite in him. And then it's just like math from there. So it's like, oh, I like you, don't like you.
Sam Huntington. I hope that's how you say it. Yeah. I was looking at him. I was like, I know that guy. I've seen him somewhere, and I had to look him up. And so he was in the show Being Human, where he was a werewolf. And so this one come full circle. So he ends up getting attacked. And I was laughing because I was like, oh yeah, he's going to get it. And then I was like arguing at the scare. I was like, why would you want to put your genitals in anything? Like, you don't even know. The bathroom detail was just, I wouldn't even go in there. Like, I would have opened the door, like, you know what? It's not that serious. And I would have taken off. But for her to be like, the bathroom is open, go in there. And he walked in. Now, I took a look at things that were written all over the wall because it was telling him to get out in all kinds of ways. Even in the door, when she creeped behind him into the... And I love how that subtle detail, he was so into the cigarette and just doing his thing, which I really did like. But then when the door closed, it was like there was stuff written on it. And even on the door where she was in. And then as soon as the hand came out, I noticed the nails were longer. I was like, oh, he's finna get messed up. So how did you get Sam?
Sure.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, so, I wrote this role for Courtney. In fact, the comic, the character is modeled after Courtney. So even before this was a short film, Courtney had already agreed to participate. And that's just a long-standing friendship and professional relationship that we have. Sam, I will give the props to our casting director, Elizabeth Brown, who Courtney also knows and is friends with. And she reached out we did a sort of traditional casting list, and she suggested numerous actors, but Sam is right at the top of that list. And I sort of immediately was like, hey, Elizabeth, I think this guy might be a little too famous for us. And she was like, I know him, I know his work, I think he'd really like this project. Do you like him for this lead? And I was like, yeah, I think he'd be a great fit. So we sent it over, and he scheduled a phone call with me, and all we talked about on the phone call, and he had not signed on yet, was the mythology of the werewolf. And he talked about being human and having played a werewolf, but never having, if I remember right, he said he had never been killed by a werewolf. And so that interested him, but he needed to know, what was her power set? How was she using her powers? Is it like a superhero? Is it like a curse? All those kinds of things, which again, because Courtney and I had spent so much time really developing the stuff sort of outside of the film itself and just her background, I had all that information. So I gave it to him, and seemingly he either liked it or was impressed. And later that day, his agent called and said that he had accepted the role. And then that was that. We did a rehearsal together. We did some phone calls. He really dedicated himself to what is ostensibly a very small project in his long career. And then showed up and was, I thought, quite professional. It was a lot of fun. And then just, really to ruin the movie magic a little bit, the first setups we did were was him, that over the top shot where he turns towards the hole and inserts himself. That was before he had his coffee that morning. Like, he just showed up to set, we put him in costume, and that was our first setup. And he, like, maybe he'd had breakfast or something, but like that was like 9 o'clock in the morning, and he just went for it. And we knew, okay, the short's gonna work. So yeah.
I didn't expect the werewolf to look like that. I didn't expect you to see that. Everything I thought was going to be implied until I'm like, wait, I'm seeing veins. I'm seeing all these things. Like, how was that you, Courtney? That was when the door closed, you were on your knees. So the whole thing was you, even the makeup.
Even the makeup, yeah.
Wow.
Which is really, that was one of the most exciting things. What we were most excited to do is a tangible werewolf, because everything is CGI, and then a little bit, because we don't, it's like harkening back to the 80s, back full prosthetics, full tactile effects, physical effects, and all that. So we're just us having a good time doing that, old school.
Which I appreciate, because I grew up in the 80s, and I just an advocate of practical effects, because I think it gives, I mean, it's good for visuals here and there, but I feel like practical have something, the realism of it, and everything. And you could definitely see the love into this. I mean, everything happened so quick, but it was almost perfect in detail of how things were going. Thom, you have such an extensive background with editing. Do you believe that has something to do with how you got to the point of from the comic to the script to the actual shooting?
Yeah, so the comic, certainly much of the shot selection was heavily informed by my DP, Brett Watkins. But the comic was something that he read, and we were... Our goal was not to like emulate it exactly, but it did act as like at our first meeting, like, here's a sort of almost pre-rendered shot list. Let's go from here. And then he started bringing in all of his influences and stuff. We shot this over 3 days. The first day was all the werewolf makeup effects. We dedicated a whole day to it because, I think, Courtney, you might have been in the chair for 3 hours just to get it on. I think it was another hour to get it off. And then obviously there was a lot of just... we had to get our shots. There's a lot of blood cleanup. We have to reset things. So we spent a whole day doing that. And by the time that day was done, I realized we just had so much more because everything went really well. Our makeup designer, his name is Patrick McGee. I edit a lot of the VHS films. We have a lot of VHS alums on here. Patrick, I think, very famously designed the Ratma character from Storm Drain and VHS 94, as well as other creatures and monsters in those films. And so I was very excited to work with him in this, but because we'd worked together before, because I've edited so many of his things, but we'd never met before this project. And anyways, I got so much footage and so many setups that I realized that like my editorial mindset blown out of the water. And so I actually I edit on a show called Chucky, the Killer Doll, and I called my assistant editor and said, would you like to edit this short for me instead of me doing it? Because it's like I believe in that separation of directors and editors. And so Casey McClelland was our editor, and he came on and just like, I think, really rocked it, and dealing with producer notes too, because of course we had all the guys from Radio Silence as a part of this. We had our other producers who were little who were doing other parts of the project with us. And yeah, it was just like there was too much good stuff for me to put it all together. And so I was happy to bring him on. But otherwise, yeah, certainly when I started, it was like I had the whole thing shot listed in my head, and it just got blown out of the water by really how great the shoot went.
Speaking of the makeup effects, Patrick McGee, I met him at Monster Palooza because I was walking, and he had and as I was walking, I was like, oh my God, that's Ratma. And then I talked to him. And then I interviewed Josh Goldblum.
Yeah.
Who helped produce VHS 94. And we were talking about the Ratma. And then I met the director at LA Comic-Con. And so it's like, it's a small world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so great. His work is so great, and did such a fantastic job on that werewolf. I mean,
he did. He did.
But Courtney, I have to give it to you too, because the movements, You were just great. There's no other words for that.
It's funny. I forgot that I had that realization because we did some makeup tests. So you know, the on the day, that's not the first time I had that on. So I feel lucky enough that I had an opportunity to like actually, you know, practice with it a little bit. And so it's funny because working inside the makeup, I felt a little bit like a puppeteer. So because even Patrick had some notes about like you have to do, you know, a lot of people want to do like certain things with their face and it'll close their eye. So he was like, it's really important that you keep your eyes open, and just little things like that, you know, I got to practice the, you know, because how to hold the face and how to move the prosthetics in a certain way. So it was a fun, you know.
It looks so fun. The whole shot or the whole short film would look so fun. I have a theory. It's probably completely wrong, but I just felt like sometimes I go far and beyond what I'm watching. Colin sitting out there, I felt like he was either the lookout or he is the finisher, because for her to go in there and turn into a werewolf and take this man's livelihood, he's left in there. So what else to do with him? Because before he in there, like while he's in there, it looks pretty clean except for the nasty graffiti everywhere. So I feel like somebody got to clean it up, and she looked too good to do that. So maybe Colin comes in, finish the job for her, and then she gives him snacks and stuff like that. Or he actually finished eating it. Maybe he's a werewolf. You know, Thom, maybe you were. I don't know.
Those are great ideas. We have ideas of who Colin is and was and all that, but I think your interpretation is a ton of fun, and I like that a lot. So maybe that should be the official Wikipedia synopsis for him.
Should I take it out?
No, it's
take
great.
It out of the interview.
No, I love it.
Because I just felt like there's no reason for him not to be there unless there was a reason. Like I just felt like there's something about him. I don't know. It was so to the point, and this actually gave me inspiration because I'm trying to write with a couple of friends, my first short ever. Great. And it's not 5 minutes, but it just, I don't know, something about when I was watching get to the point. Some things don't need to explain, let go through interpretation for the audience. There were so many things that were done here. Even the gas station with the name Dixon, was it Dixon?
Dixon's, yeah.
Yeah, it's like everything about it is leading up to what is about to happen to this guy. And I love that detail. I think you guys did such a great job. The makeup effects. So how did Radio Silence get involved to put this as presents as? Because this is the first time I've ever seen anything like that. So how did that happen?
Sure. Yeah. Well, Radio Silence, for anybody who doesn't know, I know that you know, and certainly Courtney knows, but that it's a group of filmmakers, Chad Villella, Tyler Gillette, and Matt Bettinelli-Olpin. Probably at this point most famous for creating and directing the newest Scream films, but also they were directors on the original VHS film and then producers on a number of the sequels. And we've been working together for many years. I would just call us more friends than colleagues, even though we work together. And so they have always been quite big supporters of my career. They've hired me on some things, but they've also like really helped in a more of a mentorship capacity because they're a bit ahead of me. And so there's just we're just good buds. So like we can be working on a project and then still be talking honestly about like what the next steps are afterwards for something. And so the conversation has always been, Thom, when you've got a project that you need some help on, reach out to us and we'd love to help you on it. And it felt like that was a very, very like honest, that they weren't like just sort of blowing smoke. And again, we were very good friends, so might as well. Interestingly, I live in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, and literally across the street from my house from my apartment is a mixing stage, an audio mixing stage. And so I was there for work one day on a show that I was on, and Scream 6 was being mixed in the stage next door. And so the guys were just like across the street from my house. And I was like, oh, well, lockdowns were sort of like going away. We could obviously film bigger projects, but shorts were difficult with lockdown stuff and masking protocols. And so I was like, guys, it's time for me to like really get my next short on off the ground. And you've said that you want to help me out. I want to put all my eggs in this basket. I want to make it a little bit, it's short, but I want to make it a little bit bigger than my other shorts. And I would like to involve you guys. And so because I couldn't go in the mixing stage because Scream 6 was, under wraps, they met me in the parking lot and I just pitched them the whole project. And it ended up that I had to pitch them. I had to give them the script, the comic. I created a deck for them to read. I gave them a verbal pitch. It was honestly I felt it was very respectful of, they were taking me very seriously, which is why they expected me to take it very seriously. It wasn't, I was asking for a favor from friends, but they were treating me like a professional, which I appreciated because they're such great filmmakers. Long story short is that they held on to it for about 2 weeks. They called me into their office and said, do you want to be in Scream 6? And so they cast me as the head in the fridge in Scream 6. Spoilers for anybody. So I'm like this low-key, the worst ghost face ever, the only one who never killed anybody. And they were like, the movie was shot already, so we did this on a green screen. They're bloodying me up themselves in their office, and they're just they're laughing and being like, well, I guess we have to produce your short film now. And so that's how we just traded services in kind. I did that little cameo for them. They produced this for me, and they were really supportive in helping us find a lot of our crew and our cast, and just making sure that the film was getting out there. And so putting their name above the title, besides their producing abilities with it, was maybe one of the even sort of bigger gifts they gave the production, because of course they're so well known, and it only, I feel, helps us get this out there more, so.
Mm. Yeah, they are there's no kind of words to say how amazing they are. And they have told me if I ever need help or an idea or something, they was like, hey, we're here. What do you got?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working on that. I keep hearing, if you want to do something, if you have friends, get your friends. It may not always work out there, but if your friends is there and they're willing to work with you, just, put it together with your friends, make a movie with your friends, do what you can. And you could tell that there was love, passion, understanding, great concept, the tone, the feeling. I mean, everything was there in 5 minutes, and it took you that 6 weeks to get it, to finish it, and it's just amazing. And you guys should be proud, because this was really good. I mean, I've been putting it on my Instagram, like, oh my gosh, you guys, if you guys come across Full Moon Glory, and people start laughing in the comments. I was like, it's more than that. Like, it's more than what the title is. It's great acting. Courtney did such a great job, even with barely any dialogue. You have great facial expressions. I mean, even at the end, when she went to go put them keys up, it was like, here we go. And then sat down. You could tell even the details, Thom, that you guys put in. The nails are still long. Mm-hmm. Like, she's still coming out before you see the eyes. And it was the glaring, like, oh, don't fuck with me. I may be small, I may be behind here, but I'm going to, rip your off. Like that is what you were getting. And I don't know. It was so great. And you guys did such a great job with this. And I can't wait to see. You guys are going to expand on this, right? Or in this world? Or
that's the hope. We're developing this feature. We write together in general. So we're developing multiple, most likely feature projects. Maybe they'll become other things too. But yeah.
I hope so. I can't wait to see what else you guys have, because you guys did such a great job. So this was presented at the film festival, the Fright Fest, right?
Yeah, we had our world premiere at Fright Fest in London. I forget if that's September or October now, because it's been a few months. I think it's September. Is August? Oh my gosh, world premiere there. The festival circuit is most likely winding down for us around now. Maybe in the next month or two, there's going to be a surprise screening, but we'll see how those work out. And then we're going to hit, we got online distribution from Bloody Bites, which is a channel. Certainly they have socials on Instagram and YouTube, but they're part of the Screambox streaming service. So we're going to be, their dates are not in flux right now. They're still being locked, but we're going to be most likely this summer season in 2025. So we'll be, when those dates are announced, we'll know our actual screening time there. But once it's up, it'll be up there in perpetuity. So
right now, no one can see it except for
right now, no one can see it except for festival audiences.
Oh, nah, I feel very lucky.
Yes, you got the private link. Yeah.
Because it's well worth it. I thank you, Chad. But I want to say thank you so much for coming on here and talking about Full Moon Glory Hole. See, now I got used to the title. Now I can say it with love. Well, I was with love anyway, but it's so
it's a lot.
It. Yeah, it is a lot. I mean, got to the point. And you guys did such a great job. It looks so much fun, and hopefully, I want to see more of you guys' work. Thom, I think I've seen quite a bit, and Courtney, you did a lot of TV shows.
Yeah. You know, a couple. It's funny that you mentioned Sam. That he had played a werewolf on TV, and I was like, oh, and I completely forgot that we had that in common. So we both have been werewolves on TV, but
yeah,
I didn't. But the one I was on, I didn't get to do any werewolfing because, like I said, the werewolf was CGI. So the most werewolfing I did was like going and then they CGI'd my eyes yellow, which was all great. But those were the most fun when I at least got to pretend a little bit like as a werewolf. But
hey, you're still a werewolf.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to be typecast. Rise of the Wolf Cut, I think. But yes, Thom and I have some stuff on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, so stay tuned.
You should all see it. Everything they do, just watch it. Tell your friends and share because it's amazing. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone out there for watching. If you like more videos like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment. If you find this film in the film circuit, please, pretty please, with Sugar on Top, check it out. And I cannot wait till it starts streaming because it's going to be the talk of the town. I know it is. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone, and thank you Thom and Courtney.
Thank you.